Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm just going to hold off for about another minute, just so we can wait for all attendees to get into the Zoom webinar. It takes about a minute or so, so just hold on tight. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to give it another 30 seconds while we wait for everyone to join this Zoom webinar. All right, everyone, I think we'll start now. So good afternoon. We're super excited to have you all participating in Keela's 3-day virtual conference that we're calling Plugged In. If you attended our morning session so far, welcome back. And if you're just tuning in now, welcome and thank you so much for joining us. Before we begin this session, just a few housekeeping details to go over. So first, this session will be about an hour's in length, which includes also a 10 to 15 minute Q&A session at the end. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation in the Q&A box, and we'll try to get to all of them towards the end. All sessions will also be recorded, and you'll receive the recording along with the slide deck by the end of this week. All right, and with that, I'd like to introduce and extend a huge warm welcome to two of N10's board of directors who were supposed to present together at the NTC conference, actually probably today. That was unfortunately canceled though. So instead, they've generously offered to lead the session online with all of you today. So with that, I'd like to welcome Beth Kanter, who is a master trainer, speaker, and author, as well as we have Meico Whitlock here with us, who is a trainer on mindfulness, work-life balance, and tech distraction at Mindful Techie. Their session is titled Mindfulness, Happiness, and Well-Being. There's an app for that. Thank you so much, you two, and I'll pass it off to you now.
Great, thank you so much. And I know both Meico and I are really grateful to have this opportunity to present our N10 session. And also thank you so much for your support of N10. Meico?
Yes, so let's go ahead and kick things off.
Sure, well, let's start out with a poll about our anxiety levels right now. So on a scale of 1 to 5, what's your anxiety level right now? The scale is 1, low anxiety, to 5, high anxiety, not the movie. And of course, 3, 4, 2, 3, and 4 are the points in between. So let's just see where we are. We're going to be giving you lots of tips to control and reduce anxiety. Great. So I've seen kind of like a bell curve. A lot of us sort of with some anxiety, a little with a lot, and that's okay. We're not in normal time. So it's kind of normal to feel some kind of anxiety, and we're going to be talking a lot about how to manage that. Let me share the results. There we go. Great, so let's move to the next slide. I'm gonna get rid of that. Okay, so we're gonna start out with some internal apps. It's kind of the app that's in the keyboard and the screen. It's you, it's your internal body, your mind. And there's a lot of focus on what's happening right now in our houses, in our neighborhoods and communities. And we're seeing, if we're watching the news, you know, horrible things play out. And so we have to remember that we humans come equipped with an internal app, and we can take that any place with us, and it doesn't require any technology. And we can use this internal app. We can use it alone, or we can use it with our coworkers, with our families, with our friends. We can use them virtually and in person. So Meico is going to give us a great one to kick off with.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for that, Beth. And so one of the internal apps that we're going to use today is the breath. So the breath, as Beth mentioned, is something that we all have, and you can take it with you anywhere. And fortunately, you know, the airports aren't charging you extra fee to pack it with you when you go travel. It's something that we always have. And so what I would like to do as we start today's session is to lead us through a very brief breathing exercise. And this is evidence-based. It's scientifically proven to lower anxiety, to reduce stress, to help you to get back on track if you find yourself getting off track, to help you really shift out of a reactive mode if you find yourself in that place, and shift into a place where you can be responsive to what's happening, especially given where we are today. And so I invite everyone, wherever you are, if you're in a safe and comfortable environment and it feels right for you, to just go ahead and take a moment to take an upright and comfortable and seated position, or perhaps if you're choosing to lie down, just making sure that your body is still, and you might choose to close your eyes if that feels right for you. And if you're seated, you might choose to place your hands palm down just above the knees or face up, whatever works best for you. And just ensure that your feet are firmly planted on the ground. Just take this moment to ground the body. To sharpen the attention by first just taking an opportunity to notice any contact points between the feet and any support beneath you, be it the ground or the carpet, maybe a hardwood floor. Just taking an opportunity to notice those contact points. And if you're seated or lying down, you might also take this opportunity to notice the contact points between the supported body expanding your attention even further to take note of the breath in the body. Not changing the breath or modifying it, just simply noticing the natural rhythm and cadence of the body. And that it does this work all on its own without any support from you. You might notice it in the rise and the fall of the belly or the chest. Perhaps it's noticeable for you through the in and out breath through the mouth or the nostrils. And as we notice the natural rhythm and cadence of the breath, I'll be guiding us through 3 deep, intentional breaths momentarily. And we'll be breathing in through the nose fully and deeply, and out through the mouth with that gentle but ferocious lion breath, exhaling everything, pushing down as firmly as you can on the diaphragm to push out all of the air. And we'll start with the first breath here, just breathing in fully and deeply through the nose. And out through the mouth. When the lion's roar. And breathing in one more time through the nose, fully and deeply. And out through the mouth with the lion's roar. And in one last time through the nose. And out through the mouth. Allowing the breath to return to its normal rhythm. And maintaining your posture of groundedness and If you chose to close your eyes, maintaining those for just a few more moments until you hear the sound of the bell. And if you chose to close your eyes, and if it feels right and comfortable for you, you can open your eyes now. If you need a few more moments, it's perfectly okay to take more time for yourself. And so as we mentioned at the outset of this particular segment, this is one of those internal apps that you can take with you. This is a tool that you can use. You can modify it. There are different ways to do the breathing exercises. There are different sets in terms of the number that you can do. And so you can try what works for you, but I find that doing the 3 breaths, it takes just a few moments. And it's a great way to make a shift from one thing to the next, to calm down if you find yourself in a reactive space. And something you can do in a staff meeting, do with your family, do for yourself.
Great, thank you so much, Meico. One of my great joys in working with Meico is that we often start our meetings with some mindfulness, and I'm very grateful for that. Another sort of check-in that you can start to do in the beginning of meetings. It's another internal app. I wrote a lot about this in my book, The Happy Healthy Nonprofit, is creating group rituals, which can be calming. They can provide transition time. They can allow people to express how they're feeling. It's not necessarily a therapy session, but I think in a time like this, check-ins are going to become really important. And so one of my dear friends, John Hayden, and many of you may know him, who recently passed away, and has fought a couple-year battle with cancer. And one of his sort of checking in rituals for himself and for his friends was, what rainbow are you going to eat every day? Eat a rainbow every day. As you can see, it means not only healthy foods, but looking for the blessing that's in all of this. So I want to invite you to share in the chat if you want, or maybe just with yourself, to think about, what rainbow are you going to eat today? And you can use this as a meeting check-in. In fact, I just wrote a post of kind of meeting check-in questions that you can ask in an age of COVID. Great, so let's go to the next slide and start off with our presentation. And so what we're going to be doing is taking you through a quick kind of sprint, sharing with you real apps, actual technology apps that can help you cultivate mindfulness, health and happiness, gratitude, the whole spectrum. So what we're going to do is introduce each category and then take you through the different apps. So the first category is health and fitness. And in my book, I talk about health and fitness as part of the health triad. We need to get exercise, nutrition, and sleep. And I think we really need to pay attention to the health triad more than ever during this time. And, but we need to adapt. You know, if we're in lockdown, we can't go to the gym. Maybe we're doing home workouts. You can still go outside and take a walk, as long as you're practicing social distancing. And you can even do walking meetings and walks virtually with FaceTime or even Zoom. These are some apps that will help us cultivate healthier habits. Meico.
Awesome. So I'll kick us off by talking about the first app in this category, which is called FitnessPal. And this is a tool that I have used. And one of the cool things about this is that it's a tool that's available as a mobile app on both Android and Apple, and also as a desktop website. And it allows you to track your diet and your exercise. And so if you are looking to really see all the things in one place, to figure out where you're making progress or where you want to move, is a great way to do it. It has some gamification elements which make it a little bit fun to track, and you get to compete with other people. And one of the cool features that I really love about this is it comes connected to a pre-existing database of the most commonly bought foods in grocery stores. And so you can literally use your phone or your device to scan the barcodes, and it will upload the calorie count and the nutritional value. And so you can have a holistic view of what it is you're eating and how that connects with your exercise, and if you're on track with the goals that you might have.
Great. So the next one is one of my favorites. I've been using a Fitbit. I've had it on my wrist since 2013. Haven't taken it off except to shower. I made a commitment to get healthy with activity, and I have a commitment of walking 15,000 steps a day. I must admit to you, I'm lowering my goal. Not getting outside quite as much, but I am making a commitment to get outside every day. And actually I walk with my new coworker, my husband, and at the end of the day, we take a walk. We try to do 10,000 steps, and it's COVID-free conversation. So Fitbit can help you track your steps. You can also track your sleep, which is really helpful, track your calories. It integrates with MyFitnessPal. And also the nice thing about this is that you can do virtual races or step competitions with your colleagues if they're also on Fitbit. So Fitbit's one of my favorite apps. Let's see, back to Meico.
And so moving us forward into this discussion about health apps is desk yoga. So it's really appropriate now that many of us are working from home. And one of the things I really like about this is it really expands the range of options we have when it comes to stretching, when it comes to formal mindfulness practice like yoga and meditation. Oftentimes we think we have to be in a studio or we have to be in a particular setting in order to be able to do this, perhaps at the beach like I am right now. But one of the things that's really cool about this is that it allows you to do what one of my colleagues, Anand Dalik, describes as office yoga, right? So you can do stretches that are appropriate for the fact that many of us are spending our time sitting in front of screens for a lot of time. And so walking you through office yoga specific stretches, provides you reminders to take a break if you need to, be able to track your progress. And it's something that can be used on both the organizational or individual level. And of course, there's some level of gamification here in the sense that you can do organization-wide challenges as well.
Great, next app. I thought actually we were having movement at work. Maybe I have the wrong version of the slides. So this one, I actually want to add one thing to Meico's point about movement, and just throw in another link here that will give you some movement at work apps, and actually to demonstrate a stretch. And I want us all to do it together. And this is also something you can do at your virtual meetings, is make time for stretching. So one of my favorite 1-minute stretches is the Avita stretch, okay? And it's, don't cry for me, Argentina. So I want everybody to take a minute and just do it with me. Don't cry for me, Argentina. And what that does is it gets blood flowing through your arms and your neck. You know, you could also do wrist stretches together for a few minutes, especially if, you know, I noticed that I've had a dramatic increase in back-to-back virtual meetings. So I'm doing this now, shoulder rolls, you know, a few backwards, a few forwards. So just take a moment to stretch. And if you're lined up with meetings, you know, incorporate it into the meeting check-in or icebreaker. So night shift. We all know that if you have bright lights on, the brightness of light on your app is measured in kelvins, and the light on your iPhone is the equivalent of a sunny day. It has like 7,100 kelvins or something, and a sunny day is around 5,500. And what that does, if you're looking at your phone at night, it's telling your body to wake up, time to get up, and it potentially disrupts your circadian rhythms, and then that disrupts your sleep, and you can't fall asleep as fast, and you don't go, and it disrupts the cycles of deep sleep. So there's a setting in your iPhone where you can have the light go warmer. There isn't scientific evidence that it actually works. I think the best thing personally is to not use your phone an hour or two before bed.
Okay, so the next section that we're going to talk about is mindfulness. And so some of this is going to tie back to the discussion that we had at the outset about the internal apps. And so these are going to be apps and tools that you can actually use to help you facilitate that process. So today I guided you through the process, but there are applications that you can use so you can do that on your own if you're looking for guidance and how to do that. And so the first one here that I will highlight is an app called Headspace. And this particular app is something that I absolutely love because it's beginner friendly, and it includes a large library of guided meditation and mindfulness on a whole range of topics, allows you to track your progress, allows you to connect with the community, and there are also free and paid versions. And of course, it's available across platforms. So if you're looking for a place to start and you're new to mindfulness, you're new to meditation, Headspace could be a good place to start.
Great. So I'm assuming, Meico, that you used Insight Timer when you led us through that meditation, or maybe you used a real meditation bell.
I have a real meditation bell.
Oh, okay. So like if you don't have one of those meditation bells and you can't get to, and the meditation store is not considered an essential service and the store's closed, I think it's an essential service, but you can actually download an app called Insight Timer, and it does have a lot of guided meditations, similar to the other app that Meico described, but it also has a timer on it and a bell. And I've actually, before COVID, have been using this to start meetings with a moment of silent meditation. It's another icebreaker. And I do this because people are rushing and they come in late and they're stressed out. They're thinking about the former meeting, and just having just a minute of deep breathing, even if you're not a trained coach, just, to have people close their eyes and just, calm down is a great way to kick off a meeting. Great. So gratitude and appreciation. So there's a lot of research that shows that having a gratitude practice can cultivate better health and well-being, and can even strengthen your immune system, something we need in this time. And I've been really grateful to my colleague, Ananda Leek, who I believe you guys kicked off something of the whole conference.
She starts tomorrow.
All right. So you've already been familiar with Ananda. She's been leading virtual gratitude practices every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Eastern, but if you're on the West Coast like me, you can listen to the recorded stream. Ananda's also on the board, and yesterday we actually closed out with a gratitude session. So I have a huge amount of gratitude to Ananda for really helping me learn and cultivate a gratitude habit. But there's also apps that can help you do this.
All right, so the first app that we have up is called Grateful. And it's a really simple app that simply allows you to respond to prompts and to record your responses to those prompts, and to shift into the mode that Beth was describing previously in terms of being able to literally change your mindset, change your outset. And one of the cool things, sort of expanding on Beth's discussion about gratitude, is it can be almost instantaneous if you allow yourself to go there. Like, you can be in a bad place, but you shifting into gratitude really helps you to turn it around really quickly. And so this particular app is also, the design is grounded in scientific study on gratitude. So we're not just sort of giving you woo-woo stuff. This is actually some evidence behind some of the things that we're talking about here.
That's great. And happiness, is that you or me? That's you, Meico, right?
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, who doesn't want to be happy? So we're gonna talk in this next section about apps that can actually help to improve your overall mental and emotional well-being that leads to increased feelings of happiness. And so we're gonna kick things off in this section by actually talking about an app called Happify. And one of the cool things about this is that this particular app helps to guide you through a process of, tools and programs that are evidence-based, that have been proven to reduce stress, to help you shift your mindset from the negative thoughts to the positive thoughts, and to engage in activities that have been proven to increase your overall mental health for the better.
Great. And and this app is called Shine, and it was developed by staff who work for a nonprofit called Do Something, and it started out as these two staff members would send each other, became accountability buddies in wanting to create self-care plans, and so they would check in with each other every day. You know, have you done your self-care today? And so that's where the genesis of the idea for this app happened, and they've been able to launch and scale it. It helps users create a self-care program that works to reduce stress and anxiety. But the other thing that it connects to a lot of other people. So there's a whole community of folks there that you can connect with and support you. And they recently collaborated with Mental Health America to create a site called virusanxiety.com. And there's a lot of additional mental health and stress reduction resources if you're feeling stressed or anxious because of the virus. All right. So this is mine, right? Yes. Connectivity and relationships. This is such an important category because, you know, with social distancing, it's really hard for us to connect with our families who aren't living in our house with us and our other loved ones, or to seek the comfort of our faith-based communities. We can't go to our churches or synagogues anymore. So we're live streaming them. And so these are some apps that can help us stay apart without falling apart. And I think all of us, aside from using apps, I think we need to make a commitment to experiment and iterate with how we can maintain our human connection in this age of pandemics. And that might mean things like bringing our happy hours online, you know, in the workplace. Or I just saw yesterday where one organization celebrated a birthday party. Another one had a brown bag lunch. I've been running coffee chats. I work with a couple of UK organizations, and we're doing tea time. Luckily, that's morning for me, but we're doing a virtual tea. So as much as you can, try to come up and test and experiment with activities that just keep us together that aren't really necessarily around work. And to Meico.
Okay, so the first app in this series is Fabrique. And one of the things I wanted to share about this is that these are intended to supplement or to augment our social connection. So we're not positioning this as things that can replace that. And so I want to make sure that we are clear about that. But this particular app I really love, particularly as someone who I live in a different state than my family lives. And I've often spent a lot of time traveling and living abroad. And so being able to prioritize and make sure that I'm staying in contact with important people in my life is really important. And so I love the concept behind this particular application because it essentially allows you to identify and to prioritize who are those important people in your life, and to give you reminders that we have to actually be able to reach out consistently, to keep notes, to reflect on those interactions, and on a whole, just position you to be able to make sure that you're doing your part to keep those social interactions and those connections healthy and strong.
Great. So, so this one actually is something where helps you bolster your relationships in the workplace, you know, particularly on your team. All of a sudden, we've gone from working together in the workplace, face-to-face, to now being a distributed workplace culture. And some people might already have had that in place. Others, it's a new experience. So I think it's really important to continue to have techniques and processes that get work done, of course, but also that build trust and build relationships. And this app, Know Your Team, is designed to do just that. There's many tools for one-on-one meeting check-ins. And I must say, managers, one-on-one meetings are really, really important. And the most important question you can ask is, you know, how are you doing?
Awesome.
And having daily stand-up meetings, icebreakers, and a lot more. It includes a knowledge center that's based on data from many, many people. And there's also an interactive community there where you can get tips. So, so this is a way to build connectivity, trust, and relationships on your team.
Awesome. And I wanted to just acknowledge as we move forward with this, that I know that there are questions that are coming in, so we're going to get to those. So I see your questions and I appreciate those. So we're going to keep those going, keep those coming in. We're going to keep moving, and we're going to get to those toward the end if that's okay with folks. So this particular application, speaking of relationships, I absolutely love it. So I don't know how many folks are familiar with the 5 languages framework developed by Gary Chapman, but it's essentially a framework. Most people are familiar with it in the context of romantic relationships, but it works in the context of platonic relationships, in the context of work relationships. And it really helps you to understand the ways in which we express and give love, the ways in which we express and receive communication, to understand what's your love language, what's the love language of the person that you're connecting with or with, and how can you best meet each other based on understanding where each other is coming from. And so this particular app really allows you to take an assessment and to determine what your love language is, and the other person that you're connected with, be it a romantic relationship or a friendship, they take the same test and you figure out what their language is. And the app periodically provides you nudges and examples of how you can actually build and sustain your relationship with that other person based on what their love language is, right? So if the person that you're connected with really loves words of affirmations, the app might prompt you to leave a sticky note saying how much you love that person on the fridge before you leave, for example. And so it's just a really cool way for you to take the guesswork out of some of the things you can do to sustain the relationship, and to really understand where the other person's coming from. So I'm in love with this concept in this app.
That's great. And I shared that with my coworker, AKA my husband. What is that rule about no relationships in the workplace? That's all changed, right? Yes, I have in my personal here, I have a co-working space / college dormitory. So that's a very helpful tool to have. It is a workplace tool, huh?
Yes.
So mood notes. So, a lot of our thoughts actually can make us feel more anxious, especially if we're engaging in something called automatic negative thoughts, where we're future casting, or we're thinking in black and white terms like, we'll never get out of this, the whole earth is dying, the plague is here. I'm getting anxious just like saying that. But if we can begin to track like what we're thinking and how that is creating anxiety for us, then we can learn to like stop it or at least become aware of it and bring new perspectives to the situation to kind of challenge those negative thoughts. And mood notes allows you to kind of help you track that. You can, jot it, it's a diary form, and you type in maybe some of the thoughts you're having and how you're feeling. And then as you start to collect this, you have some data, and then you can go back and reflect. And it really helps you kind of, while we're doing social distancing, have some mental distancing from yourself and maybe from others. And even things like, I felt really stressed out after spending 10 hours on Facebook reading everybody's panic threads on the updates on Facebook. It might be, maybe I need to limit myself and how much I'm consuming on Facebook.
Yes, so thank you for that. So there's a question that came in about the icon. So what we attempted to do is, so the icons at the top, you see there's an apple here to indicate that this is available for iOS. And so to the best of our knowledge, this is only available on iOS, but it could be available on other platforms. If you all find out otherwise, please let us know. But the icons are to indicate if it's for Apple, for Android, or for desktop, or for all three. So thank you for that question.
And also, even if it's just for iPhone, there is probably an app that does something similar on the other platforms. So we're also, even though it might be iPhone only, I betcha that you could find it on the on Android or other phone platforms.
Yes, exactly. All right. So speaking of maintaining connections, particularly in the workplace with colleagues, and particularly since many of us are virtual, if you use Slack as a form of communication, as a form of staying in touch, here's something that you can actually add into Slack that helps to facilitate that. So similar to some of the other apps we talked about that sort of nudge you to take action to sustain a relationship, this does something similar. It's called the Donut Bot, and it randomly pairs people up for coffee, right? And so we know that, the being able to go out physically for coffee is a bit challenging for a lot of us right now, but this can still be used to facilitate virtual coffee or virtual tea or virtual happy hour. And it's really designed to improve the overall health and well-being of the team. And we know that, personal relationships are the foundation for a healthy team and for healthy organizations. And so these small things actually make a big difference.
Great. Technology addiction. I mean, this was a problem before COVID, and now I think it's a different kind of stress that technology addiction is causing. I alluded to it before. I think if we're consuming too much information that's coming to us from our social networks about the virus, that can be stressful. I also know, I've noticed in the last couple of weeks that I've had a huge uptick of emails, virtual connections, people reaching out to me that I haven't heard from in a long time, people asking me for help, and just my inbox has just exploded. I don't know, it's probably the same for you, Meico.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having to like really muster up all of my skills and technology management skills as much as I can, and especially the one of mental distancing, because I think it's really important, because I'm an introvert at heart, and I'm not used to like talking to all these people all the time, all day long, and I'm exhausted at the end of the day. So I really need to put back into place those self-care things around, don't schedule too many back-to-back meetings in a day, or only schedule them for 45 minutes. And I see our host nodding, leave 10 minutes to like take a bathroom break. All of that is super necessary. So one really good, if you go to the next slide, this is mine, right? I'm
yes.
on. Yes. You'll notice that we had some color coding, so we didn't overtalk each other, because we both could deliver this content. I'm the orange and Meico's the blue. But this is the Screen Time Genie. It was created by the Stanford Behavior Lab. That's run by BJ Fogg, and I love it. It's a bot. And you go through a couple of questions, and then it sets up a kind of customized set of tips to help you with your technology addictions. The other thing that I also want to call out is BJ, who's a good friend of mine, and also author of Tiny Habits, which helps you create new habits, has just started a free series of expert help in creating tiny habits and things like mindfulness and other things to help us get through this. And I'll toss the link in the chat. I went on Saturday and it was amazing. Let's see, next one. This is another app. It's called Forest app, and it kind of gamifies your phone addiction. So you can put your phone down and not have it in your hand all the time and not be disrupted. And the game goes something like this. It's basically a timer that's based on the Pomodoro method. And so what you do is you plant a tree, and it sets a timer. So I'm going to plant a tree, set the timer for 30 minutes. So that means I can't touch my phone for 30 minutes. And if I touch it, it kills the tree. But if you are successful and you put your phone away for 30 minutes, the app will make a donation to Forest Conservation Organization. Over to you, Meico.
All right. So I could talk all day about technology distractions. This is one of the topics that I love to train on and help people with. So Siempo is one of my favorite tools for this. I really love the thought and intentionality they put into this. So it is an app launcher and notification manager for Android devices. So we're sorry for the Apple folks that this particular one is not available on the Apple devices. However, it is available as a plugin as well for your browser, for both Chrome and for Firefox. And the primary purpose of this particular application is to help you to essentially limit the time that you're spending on distracting websites. So on the Android devices, what it does is it actually batches and helps you to more effectively manage your notifications so that you aren't, every time your phone goes off, you're getting distracted. And on the desktop, it helps you to manage your cravings to spend a whole bunch of time on those addicting websites. So for me, it's the news website, so maybe it's certain social media websites. And this particular tool is really clever, is it helps you to identify what the distracting websites are, or you can create your own custom list. And then it forces you to actually slide a slider before you can actually open it. And the more time you spend on the website, the harder it becomes to actually slide the slider to actually get back to the website. So a pretty clever way to nudge people to really think intentionally about where they're going and how much time they're actually spending on different websites.
This one is called Momentum, and it is a plugin for Chrome and Firefox. And there is so much information out there now about the virus and about this and about that. And if you jump online and you know, you could lose your focus for the day. And I really think we really have to set boundaries around our intentions. What's your phrase, Meico? You say intention.
Oh, yes,
Deficit.
we're suffering from intention deficit disorder. Yes.
Right. So what I think it is, this is part of our toolkit that we need for information hygiene. Okay. The first piece of that is making sure that if we're getting information about the virus, that we're only getting vetted, scientific, trusted sources, and that we're also not spreading anything that's not valid, trusted source. And another thing is this tool, which sets your intention. So you're not what do I need to do online today, and get that done, and then get off.
Exactly.
Oh, this is mine too. Sorry. So Facebook. Oh, this is really useful tool. It's a Chrome extension, and what it does is it changes your Facebook newsfeed to, you can put inspiring quotes, you can put pictures of cats or dogs, anything you want. What I've been noticing, because I do, do social media professionally, I still have to use these tools. And when I start to see my feed and it's all, all COVID all the time, but all COVID panic all the time, it reinforces this thing, like the world is falling apart. And so this is really great just to have inspiring quotes. So you can get in, update your Facebook page or update the group and get out.
Yes. All right, so scheduling and task productivity. So we know that we spend a lot of time in meetings, as Beth talked about earlier, but we also actually spend a lot of time actually trying to schedule those meetings, right? And in some cases, when we actually add up the time we spend scheduling meetings or trying to get certain tasks done, like checking our email, it actually constitutes a huge chunk of our time that we could be spending otherwise doing really important work. And so we'll start with one of the first tools here, which is called Calendly. And this is a really important tool if you do a lot of one-on-one appointments and you want to be able to make your calendar easily accessible so that people can schedule those appointments without you going back and forth, for 30 minutes or an hour trying to figure out which time works for you, which day, et cetera. Put all the details, let those be facilitated through Calendly, puts a invite on your calendar, on their calendar, provides information about how you're going to actually meet. And then it really cuts down on the back and forth with the emails. Acuity scheduling is a similar tool that allows you to do this. And this is actually my preferred tool of the two. And one of the reasons I like to use Acuity is because if you have a Squarespace website, it's actually free. It's included with Squarespace. You're able to accept payment for appointments. So if you have a clinic or if you're a yoga teacher, for example, and you're scheduling things, a really nifty way for you to be able to collect payment and also have flexibility to create different types of appointments.
Okay, so really quickly, this is an app called I've Done This. Sometimes we all keep to-do lists, and probably some of them, your to-do lists have been blown up recently. I know mine have. And that can feel like you're not accomplishing anything. As you start to construct your new to-do lists, this helps you reflect and track what you've done so you feel like you're being productive. Let's go to the next one. Trainual. Probably a lot of your procedures and processes in your organization have been blown up now that you've had to shift all of a sudden and go remote. So Trainual is a great app because it helps you capture and revise your internal process manuals more easily. So I think that's a really useful app for right now. To you, Meico.
All right. So we know that email takes up a lot of our time. As a matter of fact, I've seen some studies that show that we spend more than 50% of our time actually reading, responding, writing, getting back on track after engaging with email. And one of the applications that can be useful in terms of helping you get control over your inbox is a website called unroll.me that essentially allows you to see at a glance all the things that you're subscribed to and to be able to mass unsubscribe from those things as opposed to you going through and doing those one by one manually. So it's really easy to use. The one thing I will note is that they do, I guess, data harvesting. And so if you do choose to share your information, it's a free tool, but it's free with the catch. So if you do choose to share, just be aware that they do analyze your email for marketing purposes. And so just to be aware of that if you decide to use this particular tool.
Boomerang. One of the things I've noticed in the last 3 weeks since we've been under this is like the boundaries between work and work and home life have kind of disappeared. And that's kind of like, well, yeah, because we're all working at home. I've just noticed an influx of weekend and after hours email messages. And so I'm trying not to like perpetuate that cycle. So I might be on there reading, but I'm actually scheduling my replies during quote normal business hours, whatever that is in this day and age. So Boomerang can help you schedule your responses so they come in during regular business hours. And I think even though we're not living in normal times, I think that we should try to start to kind of keep some boundaries and some consistent habits so we're not working and stressing ourselves out and our families all the time. And Boomerang is a tool that can help you.
And so similar to Boomerang, Streak is a tool that I use for Gmail, and it's actually can be used as a CRM, but I don't use it for that feature. I use it partly for what Beth described, is it allows you to do an unlimited number of pre-scheduled emails that you can send out. There's some limitations if you decide to use Boomerang for that. It allows you to create email snippets. So if you're constantly having to repeat the same thing over and over again or answer the same question over and over again, you can create snippets that you simply use a keyboard shortcut to drop those in the email, and that saves you time. Then the last thing I really love about this is it's able to do really sophisticated mail merges. And so if you are in a role where you have a need to send out personalized, customized emails, and it needs to appear to be coming from a real email address, this might be a solution that you might want to take a look at if you're using Gmail.
Great. So before we go here, I think we have some time to open it up for any questions that are coming from the audience.
Yes, we absolutely do. And there's lots of questions coming in. So the first one, it's from Ines, and she's saying, thank you for sharing so many great applications. What do you think are the top 3 apps I should include in my life right now, now that I'm working from home and I'm struggling to find the right balance between work and free time?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I would start with the internal apps. So I know that it might sound cheesy for folks, but that's really the place to start, to make sure that you have grounding rituals to help you start and end your day, or to help you get back on track throughout the day if you find yourself getting off track. And then the other thing is, you don't necessarily need an app to do this, although there are, I think, 1 or 2 of the apps that we talked about helps you to do this. But intention setting is really important. One of the reasons that we find ourselves anxious and off track, particularly in times like this, is that sometimes we're not clearly grounded in what our intention is for how we're showing up for that particular day. And so it's one of the reasons that during this morning session, I asked people to consider what their intention was for how they were going to show up for this day. And just taking a few moments to do that is critically important. So if I were to offer one recommendation, I would say to start with the internal app. There is nothing, I think, more critical than that.
And I was just going to say the same thing, Meico, but one internal app I didn't share, I did write about it in my book, is what I do before. Don't go to your email and work stuff the first thing in the morning. And one way you can do that is don't use your iPhone for your alarm clock. And I do this, I've been working in my pajamas for over 30 years. I've been working remotely. And one of the habits that I do have is for at least an hour, if I can, in the morning, is my time for reflection and quiet time. And every morning I journal. So this is my journal. I'm a pen freak. I'm practicing calligraphy. I own way too many pens. And what I do is I go to something. Right now I'm working on Audre Lorde's poems, and I take a poem and I write it out in calligraphy in my journal. I reflect on her words. And then I start to move over this, if you could see my desk, it's in my living room now. I put that's the personal reflection. And the next thing I do is I look at my plan for the week, and I look at my plan for the day. What are my meetings? What are the 2 or 3 things I'm going to accomplish? And the one thing I accomplish every day, no matter what, from working at home, is I get up and I take a shower and I get dressed as if I'm going to leave the house and go to work.
Yeah, and I would echo that. So going back to the discussion about intention setting and how you start your day, I actually created a planner. It's called the Intention Planner specifically for this purpose, because I find that a lot of folks that I work with, particularly, I've been surprised even at higher levels in organizations, don't have a daily or weekly planning ritual that they use to actually set their priorities, to figure out what's important. I mean, we end up starting our days jumping into the emails, jumping on social media, jumping into the news, and we allow those things to direct our days when we really need to be doing some pre-work before we engage with those activities.
Well said. Thank you, guys. So the next question that we have, it's an anonymous one, and they're saying, I'm an ED and my entire organization is working remotely. What questions should I be asking my team to ensure that they're doing okay?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually just in my quiet time this morning, I managed to write a whole post on that. It's kind of icebreakers in an age of pandemics. And so I've been brainstorming a list of questions like, what rainbow will you eat today? How are you getting outside today? You could start even generally, how are you feeling? And open up that way. What have you done to tend to others?
Yes.
What are you doing to find comfort? Where have you found a blessing? Another humor, and this is research-based, humor really works. Lots of studies around how humor can boost the immune system and makes people feel better. We've been having folks at some of my meetings, I've been doing like, share the funniest meme you've seen about the virus. And there's been some really funny ones. Share, something that made you smile in the last couple of days. So, and it's questions that you also could be asking yourself, as part of your morning journaling and reflection piece. You can, before you switch to work stuff, how am I getting outside today? What's the one thing you are secretly pleased that you don't have to do now that you are social distancing?
Yes.
For me, to be honest, I don't have to spend enormous amounts on my, getting my hair cut as often. Or whatever. I think the most important thing is maintaining those one-to-ones and those check-in questions, and then setting off your meetings with a verbal check-in. And the link I just dropped in will give you some techniques about how to do that on Zoom.
Yeah, and I would add to that for my team, a couple of questions that I found to be really helpful is, one is, what's one thing over the last week you've done for yourself, right? So we can't help other people until we help ourselves. So sometimes, particularly in the sector that we work in, we forget about ourselves. And so I like to ask that question. I also like to ask, what's working for you? And follow it up with, so what's working for you, but where do you need support? Because sometimes people aren't necessarily volunteering to ask for support. They feel like they have to do it all themselves. So ask people directly, where do you need support, or where are you struggling, and how can we be of support with whatever it is that you might be struggling with?
Great.
That
Other
is
questions?
Great advice. Yeah, there is another one. It's from Meico. They're saying, what are your top tips for staying calm and mindful even with the current circumstances? And I know you've kind of gone over this, but maybe just one or two more top tips. People can't get enough of your tips.
Yeah, so and I'm sure Beth has a lot to say about this too. So there are three things that I would say. The first is to really take a news diet and really unplug from
yes.
all of the constant news, right? And I'm not saying not to disengage and not be informed, but get the news summaries that give you the actionable things that you need in order to move forward, and leave the rest. So that's the first thing. The second is to really take stock of what is your sphere of influence, right? What do you actually have control over, right? So sometimes we're overwhelmed because we're trying to solve a big problem that we have no influence over, and we really aren't really focused on what we actually have control over. And so the discussion that we had about gratitude, for example, is a great way to sort of identify your sphere of influence. So what are you grateful for? What's showing up for you in your life? What's resonant for you? And then the second thing that I think is really, the third thing I would say is to make sure that you are connecting with people who can support you, right? You don't have to go through this experience alone. And even though we are practicing physical distancing, that doesn't mean that we're disconnecting or we're sort of destroying those pre-existing relationships, right? So making sure that you're being concerted in terms of how you are maintaining those social connections. And if you do need support, get to a place where you're able to, voice that and get the support that you need.
Great. I would just add a tip. I don't know if you can see this, but that is Tigger. He's a senior dog at the senior rescue, and you can't see it. That was our virtual senior dog adoption interview that we did on Sunday. And I'm proud to say that after this call, my daughter and I think my husband too, were driving to meet the folks from the shelter in a park with a 6-foot leash and masks, and we're gonna bring Tigger home. So the research shows that dogs are a calming presence, but also, I feel like I'm also we're helping with giving Tigger a home that he needs. And I mean, I'm jokingly saying this dog has had a hard life and he's on some anti-anxiety medicine. I'm saying, I think I need some of his medicine too. But and we have talked about in our family about trying to get, a dog. And I've always been the one resistant to it because I was afraid I would be the one with a major responsibility around it. And so I said to my kids who are home, what if we got a dog? Would you empty the dishwasher? We'll see about that. But I just think it would be a nice thing to do, and it's something they've wanted. And so try to do good things for yourself and your family.
That is such a great tip, and I 100% agree. I actually have my own dog. Here she is. And she honestly makes us laugh and keeps us, makes everything lighthearted in these crazy days. So thanks for bringing that up. That's actually so important. And I guess we have time for maybe one more question. You mentioned at the beginning about creating group rituals. How can you facilitate these with the same face-to-face quality over the internet? Is it harder to connect? And that was sent from Paul.
That's a great question. A lot of my, I do in my practice as a facilitator, 30 years, I was an online facilitator for an online network called ArtsWire back in the arts days. So I've been doing online community for 30 years. And in the old days when we didn't have my team, we just were communicating through Unix, text-based communication. And I worked with a virtual team 30 years ago, and we talk on the phone too. And I had never met my colleagues face-to-face. They, we're all, subcontractors. And I had developed mental pictures of what they looked like and what they were. And when we met in person, I couldn't it was just a mind shift to say, well, I imagine you as a blonde, not a brunette. But these days, I think we're able to see people's faces. So I think having video platforms are really important. I think getting away from presentation and report mode is really important. Don't share the desktop, just have everyone's face there. And there are lots of techniques. I'm writing a lot about this now. I have written about it in the past, is how can you adapt your face-to-face participatory techniques that create a closer connection and port them online. And over the last 2 years, I've been involved with a Culture of Health network where it's people meeting virtually. And we've been experimenting with these techniques for a long time. And we're able to create connections pretty well. So Zoom is a great tool for this, and there's lots of features on it, like the breakout rooms, or even just, having people just using the screen, I just wrote a post on virtual facilitation, some of the basics, maybe apply some of those techniques. So that's what I would suggest. It does take some adjustment if you've never done it, if that's not your whole context, but I believe it's possible. And this week I've been doing a virtual, I'm a big walker. I've been doing virtual walks with people, getting on FaceTime, and we've been walking, and I walk in my neighborhood, my friend walks in her neighborhood, and we're on the phone talking to each other. And I actually did it with a small group where everybody is in their different neighborhood. So you just got to find ways to adapt, and it is possible.
Yeah, I think that's right on. And I would just sort of summarize what Beth just shared is that many of the things that we do in person many of those things can be facilitated through technology. So it's just about being creative about how you actually do that.
And what I'll do is just zip this tip sheet in, some tips for that. Okay, so I think we're headed towards the closing, and we're going to come back to our rainbow. It's a great question to ask. John Hayden, our dear friend who wrote Donor Care, you should definitely get a copy of his book. While he was fighting his cancer, asked himself every day, said, I'm going to eat a rainbow every day. And if you Google that phrase, you'll see that it alludes to eating, a rainbow of vegetables. So maybe one question you can ask yourself, one question you can ask your staff, or you can do it as a icebreaker or a reflection. What rainbow are you going to eat tomorrow to help you be mindful, healthy, happier, and grateful during this bizarre time?
Thanks, Beth. That's really great. And we really appreciate you guys coming on today. That was really some great tips. So I think that'll do it for today. Yeah, just a reminder that our next session is tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. PST or 11 a.m. EST. If you enjoyed this session, then you'll love tomorrow's session, as it will be hosted again by Meico and Ananda Leek, where they'll do their second round of meditation and mindfulness. So please join us then. It's a really great session, especially for right now. It's very timely. If you haven't already signed up for that, I've just posted the link in the comments section to sign up for that. And thanks again, everyone. I don't know, Beth or Meico, if you had anything that you wanted to say for saying goodbye to everyone, but I'll pass it off to you to close it off.
I'll just say deep gratitude for the work that you all have done in your team and making this possible. We know that lots of folks were sort of thrown off by the fact that we had to cancel the in-person events, but so grateful that we have folks like you who are able to step up and make this possible. And of course, to Beth, it's always an honor and pleasure to be able to connect with my friend and colleague. And I just enjoy being able to share.
Right, and I also want to extend the love and gratitude back to Meico. I don't know, we've been working together for 5 years. I really enjoy working with Meico. He's awesome. And also my gratitude to Keela, to both of you on the team, and your founder, for asking us to do this, and also for encouraging folks to support NTEN. And both of us are board members, and we want to thank all of you who have continued to be members of the NTEN community and support us. I've been going to the NTC for every year consecutively for the last 20 years, and COVID ruined my streak. So I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody in person and healthy and happy at the NTC 2021.
Thank you so much, you guys. It's been a pleasure, and we'll see you again tomorrow, Meico, and thank you so much. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.